As a kid, I really struggled saying the words, I love you. I was told that by my parents as well as other relatives, and so it was modeled for me. But when they said those words to me and expressed that type of sentiment, I felt awkward responding. And as I got older, I knew I should reciprocate those words, but it became harder and harder because the longer it became my habit to feel embarrassed or awkward, it just became more challenging to really break through that. Now, perhaps you don't experience that same difficulty that I had, but I do think, and many times we can experience similar types of ruts when it becomes challenging for us to lavish praise or compliments towards others as far as how we see God working in their lives. So I'm going to read a passage from 1 Corinthians 1, verses 4 and 5. And as I do, I want you to notice just how freely Paul identifies graces and gifts in very flawed people. So here's how it reads. He says, I always thank my God for you because of his grace given you in Christ Jesus. For in him you have been enriched in every way, with all kinds of speech and with all knowledge. Now, if you know anything about 1 Corinthians, the people, the church that Paul was writing to, they had some major issues. Yet Paul's custom in most of his letters was to start out by identifying specific graces in the people's lives. In other words, specific ways that he notices God working in their lives. You know, Paul didn't feel the least bit awkward about expressing the grace he sees within them. This week, we are going to continue to look at the theme of humility in our devotions, but we're going to focus on how humility is a gateway to power. So how is identifying God's grace and gifts within others a sign of humility that leads to power? Well, as human beings, part of our nature is we tend to compare ourselves to others. And as a result, we can almost feel that if we acknowledge that some incredible gifts within others, that it simultaneously threatens us. And the longer this sort of attitude is really allowed to lie dormant within us, the more entrenched it becomes and the harder it can be to break free from it. We can get in these patterns where we feel awkward about building certain people up, or we feel if we identify graces and gifts in their lives that we may be giving them a power over us. But to be able to identify graces and gifts in others is actually a sign of humility and power. Right? There's nothing noble about being stingy with identifying graces in other people. We can become prisoners to jealousy, competition, and comparison if we're not careful. And part of the way that we break free from that is by being willing to maybe feel a little awkwardness by lavishing praise and compliments upon others as we see God working in their lives. So as we identify these graces, not only will we be building other people up, but we ourselves will become free as we begin to live from a place of power. And so I want to leave you with these two questions. Who has it been hard to give these type of compliments to? And then second, who will you intentionally seek out to express the ways that you see God working in their life?